Everybody gets timestamp 0 of The Mummy from 1933. 3, 2, 1, play. I also
Hey,
quite
name of
like
the fiction.
the. It's weird too because I think this might be the worst first Mummy movie because I like the Hammer one quite a bit, and obviously the Fraser one is my favorite. Not counting the Cruise one, that's a whole different
I was
beast.
about to say.
But of movies that actually have to do with like Egyptian mythology and mummies, and
For
obviously
sure.
we just had a new Mummy movie come out a couple weeks ago that I have not seen yet, The Mummy Believer.
Well, is that a monkey's paw situation where everyone was saying, why can't we make Mummy spooky again? Why can't we make a scary Mummy movie? And I mean, it sounds like Lee Cronin tried.
Yeah, I just don't know if The Mummy is best off as a scary movie. Maybe it's better off as a adventure Indiana Jones type film. It's just the 2017 one goes too far in that action direction.
Yes.
This is the Scroll of Thoth. Here at least this one has to do with like more Egyptian mythology and stuff. I think even the Fraser movie doesn't really. It kind of just keeps it vague.
Yeah, it just keeps whatever it takes from these movies. And of course, what sets this apart from its predecessors, Dracula and Frankenstein, is that this one's not based on a book. This is an original screenplay. I believe there was a short story, Cagliostro, I think, that they were initially using as the basis, and then the final script of that this ended up being completely different. So
Oh,
this went through a lot of revisions, and then they settled on just calling it The Mummy. So
and
it's not
even
based on something directly like those are.
yeah, and I mean even thematically with the rest of them, it kind of feels out of place, right? Like the Mummy in this, from memory, is just a villain.
Yes. Well, I mean, Dracula was like Dracula is the first one, and then kind of the outlier for most of these monsters, where he's by far the most villainous.
Yeah.
This mummy is a villain, but there's still a bit of pathos to him. Like he's still a tragic figure.
Also, this doesn't bother me in the slightest, but it's just funny how culturally insensitive this movie is.
There's been worse.
Yes. Are you excited for Lee Cronin's The Mummy?
I'm not. I'll watch it eventually.
I did invite Noah, but he was like, "No, fuck you." It's like, "Oh, okay."
Oh, I bet that's exactly what he said.
Yes.
And of course, here the guy checking out Mr. Mummy is Edward Van Sloan, who you knew as Van Helsing in the first Dracula, and was also in Frankenstein. And this might be his last one of these. I don't think he comes back.
Although I just said that maybe The Mummy isn't meant to be a horror film. Maybe you just need to make a straight up slasher where the mummy is the killer, which is kind of what this movie is from memory.
It kind of the sequels are much more that, which is interesting because at least the sequels to this movie are kind of proto slashers,
Yes.
with a few key differences.
Oh, I forgot. Emotep comes from this one.
Yep. Yeah, there are a few very specific names and like plot beats that the 99 one takes from this movie, and it is otherwise very different.
I don't remember because I've only seen it once. Does 2017 even mention Emotep?
No, and obviously the 2017 one was meant to be a reboot to relaunch the franchise, but there are Easter eggs and references that are supposed to make it like canon with the Fraser
Yeah.
movies. And of course, remember that the Fraser movies are period pieces and the 2017 one is set in modern day, but it's supposed to be in that continuity, I guess.
The fabled start of the Dark Universe where all the monsters are dead and locked away.
Tis true.
Because I think the biggest problem that I have with the new one, having not seen it yet, that's going to take this commentary. Who the fuck cares about a mummy possession movie? That's not how mummies work.
I think there's an interesting idea in there somewhere of an innocent, like somebody from modern day getting turned into a mummy and exploring like the fucked up body horror stuff with that. Like there's something cool and creepy there, but it also sounds like it's just a generic possession thing.
Just make a more one to one remake of this where they take the thing's organs and it hunts them down because it wants it back.
Yes. That I think is
Which is
one of
funny
the
because the
coolest ideas for the
99
99
movie
one.
kind of does that.
Oh, it does, yeah. And of course, you wrote in the live chat, "Don't read from the book." I've never had this thought before. With Sam Raimi's The Evil Dead, I have always described that movie as kind of his riff on like The Exorcist and Night of the Living Dead, particularly Night of the Living Dead. But there's a lot of both of those movies in The Evil Dead. I never had this thought before that he may have also been inspired by this because this also has an evil scroll people read from that
Yeah,
brings dead back and causes bad things to
I've
happen.
I've never been able to get how big of a horror guy he really is, because he always
I
says
have
that
no
he's a
clue.
comedy guy first.
Hmm.
That's why
But
Evil
I
Dead
could.
2 is a comedy film. So maybe just because this movie is, the Universal monster movies are obviously classics and
Hmm.
influential.
Well, and he was of that generation that really grew up on these.
That's one thing that we're missing from every single adaptation in the book, because the kids portion take place in the 50s. He fucks with them by turning into like the Wolfman and Dracula.
Right.
We never do that. Probably because we don't want to pay for licensing. But
Yeah, like missed opportunities, but like you said, licensing would have been really cool if in the Muschietti movie, if it turned into like Jason and Freddy and contemporary monsters. That could have been neat.
one thing I will give this
But
movie just credit for is doing so much with the Egyptian gods. I find Egyptian mythology quite boring personally. Like I've never read or seen anything that's like, oh, this is why it's cool. But they all have cool names, and I think they make for really good like mythology and horror films.
don't open that.
Don't open the box. We'll talk about it more when we get there. But one thing that I think the '90s movie is missing is the classic rap, uh, mummy rap.
That we'll get into it when we get there because Steven Summers had a lot of thoughts on that. And in this movie, he only has that look for a couple of minutes because this is the one where he had, this is how he looks for the opening scene, but then for the rest of the movie, he has a disguise.
Uh, like with all of these, the cinematography here is just gorgeous.
Yes, I love the way this movie looks, and this whole opening sequence I think is fantastic.
When are we gonna get the Mummy versus Dracula?
One day. At least put on some gloves. What kind of archaeologist are you?
He's a fraud. Something that is fun is every time we bring back the Universal monsters. I was thinking about this earlier. We at least get a trilogy. Obviously we have the 30s and 40s, and then in the 50s and I think through the 60s. I don't know how long they go, but you get the Hammer movies. Then we bring it back in the 90s, and you get a trilogy there. The Mummy, Frankenstein, and Dracula. Now we've brought it back again, and we've got a trilogy of movies that aren't really Universal monster movies. They just have the name on them of the Invisible Man, the Wolf Man, and now the Mummy. One of those
Yeah.
was good anyway.
Yep.
They'll ruin it with the quadrilogy when we get the Creature from the Black Lagoon that doesn't have a Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Oh.
You're gonna freak out.
Yeah.
It'll be a body horror movie about somebody turning into the creature.
Oh no.
No, I don't know if it's just me, but there's very distinct lack of score here, and I like that choice.
Yes. And this is like the money shot we get of
Yes.
Jack Pierce's amazing makeup on Karloff. Like this whole scene is beautiful.
Correct me, because I get the names mixed up. Karloff is Frankenstein, right?
Yes. Frankenstein's monster, actually.
Oh. Die!
Oh my god, Mummy's alive. And the scene particularly reminds me of the Evil Dead 2013 scene where he's reading from the book and like translating it. That's his bling.
Honestly, I relate to this guy. If I looked up and that thing was coming towards me, I'd also scream. I love that choice. If you don't see it actually move, it's just the wrap.
He's just got some toilet paper stuck to his shoes.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
So, because you mentioned that this isn't based off a book. Is there any like research into like why mummies? Is it just that concept's creepy, but let's make a movie of that, or
It was more of a contemporary idea because in the 1900s, particularly the 20s, uh, there was a lot more progress being made in those kinds of discoveries and archaeology and people unearthing like the discovery of who we call King Tut, was a huge deal when he was found. So there's very much like a pop culture influence, or that's being cultivated here, where this is a thing that people are just talking about and are interested in. And yeah, I think especially to British and American people, it was just like such a weird, creepy concept, that these old traditions were now becoming more public knowledge.
so interestingly, so this is directed by Carl
Freund.
Freund. He's best known for photographing Metropolis, Dracula, and I Love Lucy.
Yes.
So I don't know if you did a whole lot of research on him, but did you see his first wife's name?
I do not remember.
I'm not convinced this is a real name. I just said it to you. Fuck if I can pronounce that.
Like, I believe he was German.
Yes, German Bohemian, whatever that
Uh, what are you talking about? That's just Suset's life, John.
means. Oh, you're right. You're right.
Everyone can pronounce that.
Well, and something that's interesting too is because he was born in the 1800s, technically 1890. He died like he didn't even live to the 70s.
Damn.
He died in 1969.
Here we got him.
There he is.
He's got that fez.
Fez are cool. Clearly Egyptian Boris Karloff.
He's just like half Indian, close enough.
Whoa, 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 whoa. And then the guy that wrote the actual script for this also wrote the 1927 Dracula.
Yes, it was he was like a rewrite on the play version, which is then what Universal adapted into their
Yes.
movie version, where I know he was also credited on it. So his final script, so him having history with Dracula and then writing this original screenplay, you can tell because there's a lot of Dracula in the
Well,
structure and plot of this
just looking
movie.
at his filmography, he worked on a lot of these. So he's credited for the 27 play and then the 31 movie script. He wrote an early script for Frankenstein, and then he did this. He worked on The Bride of Frankenstein, Dracula's Daughter, etc. So like, it sounds like Universal just kind of had him kept him around to work on different things.
Well, and this too is such a shift in, you know, culture and location, where this is the first one we're kind of getting out of like the European Gothic stuff of Dracula and Frankenstein. Because these early Universal monster movies, there's like the original run, you could say, is starts with Dracula and goes through Bride of Frankenstein, and then we sit on it for a few years and then bring it back with Son of Frankenstein, and then you get the Wolf Man, and that ushers in the '40s era where we then start pumping out all the sequels.
Well, and it's interesting too how like, because with slashers that's a subgenre.
Hmm.
Universal Monsters is specifically put out by like a specific company with no real
Right.
theme or you idea. Just there's monster. Here monster creepy.
Well, and that's what's cool and why fitting that the two we start with, not counting the silent era, is Dracula and Frankenstein because of the way they complement each other and how they compare and contrast. Where they were both, seminal works of gothic horror, but also Dracula, old folklore, Frankenstein, science fiction. So immediately, just with those two movies, we are showing both we're both inventing kind of a house style and also seeing how we can explore some differences and have some variety here. And then the Mummy just continues that trend that we're not making the same movie over and over again. Even though plot wise, this does take a lot from Dracula.
One thing that I do hate about the Wikipedia page for Universal Horror is it includes all the modern like tangentially related like Renfield and Abigail on here. I'm like, I don't know,
Yeah.
like that's not really a Universal. Even in the loosest possible fucking terms, like the Wolfman remake from last year. I said earlier, I'm not a big Egyptian mythology guy, but I will say that some of the Egyptian just the iconography looks really cool. The
I
only
love the
time I
aesthetic.
don't like it is Assassin's Creed Origins does it. You know what? You know why it
Mm.
sucks in a video game? Because 90% of the game is sand, and that is boring as shit to run through.
That's one of my favorite things about the '99 movie. Is it's like, all right, we're gonna give Emotep all his powers. What will one of them be? I don't know, sand. There's a lot of sand in Egypt. He could just turn into sand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, he would destroy Anakin Skywalker.
It's true.
Uh, and we'll talk more about it in the '90s movie, but I do think that handles more of the not sympathetic, but like the monster wants the girl. I think it handles that a lot better. Even though I think the second movie really throws that whole reincarnation thing into a.
Yeah. It gets weird.
I think I saw that the Mummy Digital is getting like a digital release date really soon too.
wouldn't surprise me.
I'm still waiting on. Oh, apparently Ready or Not 2 is going to hit digital next week. Yay! I want to see that. And
I
then
also need to see that.
apparently in 3 weeks, the Mummy will come to video. I finally watched They Will Kill You. It's a good movie. It is kind of a worse Ready or Not, but it's still really good.
If you pay attention, this is a line will repeat in the 99 one where he says, "Don't touch me." Eastern superstition.
Oh, okay. I do kind of wish that the Mummy had to earn looking human like the 99 one does, but I get what they're why they had to do it
Yeah, I mean, there's at least a 10-year time jump from the prologue to
that way. Oh,
now. So I mean, that's
I
something.
I'm glad you said that. I had either I missed something or
Yeah, I mean, we're talking over it. It's fine. But I do okay. So my history with this movie, real quick. When I was a kid, my friend Donnie and his family are big into like the Universal monsters. Introduced me to some of these, and this was one he made me avoid because he was like, "Oh, the first movie sucks. It's slow, and he wears a stupid fez for most of the movie." Like no, we'll watch the second one.
I love the idea that your friend was specifically offended by the Fez. Nothing else in this movie. Just like I can't watch movies with Fezes.
That's all I knew about it. And so we watched the second one, which is The Mummy's Hand, which, for context, doesn't come out for another 8 years after this, and isn't really a sequel. It's more of a soft reboot because the Mummy isn't named Emotep; he's named Karis. And then Karis is his name for the rest of those 40s movies. But they also like reuse stock footage from this movie for the flashbacks and stuff. They get progressively cheaper and lazier as they go, which is very unfortunate.
It
And the
says here the
Mummy's,
Mummy's Hand only had a budget of like $84,000. Jesus.
which is more back then, but still not a lot.
Yeah.
But that one though does have more of the comedy and adventure tone that the 99 one will do. And also, The Mummy's Hand is where we first get he's just a shambling guy in bandages, walking slowly the whole movie. Killing that's where I made where it has kind of that proto slasher feel, where it's the slow moving killer. Except, and this gets worse as the movies go on. People die for like no real good reason. They just see the mummy scream and stand there and just let themselves be killed. It's like, come
I
on.
wonder now that you mentioned that. I think it's Child's Play 3 where Chucky kills that guy just by popping out of nowhere and getting a heart attack. And I always wondered if that's a Universal reference because I know Don Mancini loves at least the Frankenstein movies. They're all over those movies.
Mm-hmm.
I love a good shadow car shot.
Well, and the like I said, the director of this, Carl Freund, did the cinematography for Dracula, and it's like everything he was experimenting with and doing on that film, I think is improved upon here on a technical visual level. I think this is a huge step up. His direction and Karloff are the highlights of this movie easily. Because there's some gorgeous cinematography and some pretty impressive camera work here for just
I
1932.
I love that the third Mummy movie is the Mummy's Ghost. What the fuck does that mean? Did they just like let's throw two words together and call it a movie?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't realize that was Lon Chaney.
Yeah, he takes over for a while and hated that role because
Oh,
it's a lot of makeup and he didn't get to act, he didn't get to say anything. It's just a lot of shitty makeup that he's stuck in and he just has to walk around. Like he hated doing those movies.
that's unfortunate. God Those movies are only 60 minutes long.
They get shorter as they go, and the amount of stock footage goes up. So by the time you get to the last movie, it's a 60-minute movie that's like 30% stock footage.
That's cool. I love The Mummy's Curse is is a legitimately great title though.
Yes.
And then have you seen the Hammer Mummy, the first one?
I have. And that one takes plot stuff from both this movie and the second one, Mummy's Hand specifically. So that's the first one that's kind of a mishmash of a couple, and it's pretty good. I think the movie's all
I
right.
I remember liking it quite a bit. At least I like it more than this one.
Hmm.
But it will never make me not laugh that Christopher Lee is the Mummy.
Oh yeah, it's distracting. But like this POV shot with the flashlight, like, looks really cool.
Yeah, no, there's some creepy stuff there.
It's just like, hey,
I
get out of here.
I will
And then he
say,
gets off screen to death.
you and you're the only one that's gonna see this because you're the only one that cares. But the poster for the Hammer one I think is also really cool.
Yeah, is that the one where like the light's shining through his chest, where he has like holes in his body?
Yeah, it's this one. I remember that mummy design also just being legitimately creepy.
He looks pretty good. It's only distracting in the flashbacks where you have Christopher Lee playing the whitest Egyptian you've ever seen in your life.
No, when he's in the mummy costume, it's or like
Makeup.
makeup, it's creepy.
It looks good. Yeah.
Tyler, where does this one sit in terms of other Universal monster movies? We talked about this a little bit. This is probably at the bottom. It's this and the Wolfman are kind of at the bottom for me. I really want to like the Wolfman. I just never. It doesn't click with me. And I wonder because I think yeah. And then Hammer did a bunch of mummy movies, but I've only seen the first
There are so many fucking mummy movies I still haven't seen.
one. Yeah. Oh, what was that book? Austin was reading that he said the new one is based off of. Wasn't it? Was it Jewel
I
of
don't
Seven
remember.
Stars?
Maybe? That might be the title.
Because what's interesting is Blood from the Mummy's Tomb, which is it looks like the last uh, Hammer movie, is also based on that.
Okay.
I'm gonna look and see. I'd actually like to go through and watch all of the Hammer Universal movies anyway.
But this is another plot element that the 91 will take, where our leading lady is half British, half Egyptian.
Oh, she a reincarnation?
Maybe. Which is funny because the 99 one doesn't really do that with Evie, but then the second movie does.
Oh yeah, I guess it's more vague in the 91 why he needs her.
It really just feels like in the 99 one it really just feels like, she's hot, I'll just use her body to bring my girlfriend back.
Cool. That's cool.
And then in the second movie you find out, no, she's also reincarnation of this other lady we never saw before.
Tyler says he prefers this over Phantom, but that's just him. I haven't seen Phantom. I don't have a dog in that fight.
I like the original Phantom of the Opera.
The only one of those that I'm really interested in is the Robert Englund one. Have you ever seen the poster for that?
Yes.
It's fucking nuts.
That movie looks insane, but I need to see it. Imhotep.
Imhotep. That's the main thing that I remember from that movie, just when the town is possessed.
And if you didn't catch it, Imhotep or the Mummy, his alias in this movie is Ardith Bay, which we will reuse as a name for a different character, the 99 one, the Magi guy, who's watching over the city.
Oh.
So there's just like there's a bunch of little callbacks and references to this movie and the '99 one that I appreciate. But yeah, this guy died of shock, much like your Child's Play guy who died of a heart attack.
As most people do. It was that. So I wonder if that is something that just like if Lee Cronin has seen those Hammer movies, or so that's very
I wouldn't
interesting.
be surprised.
Blood from the Mummy's Tomb is also a kick-ass movie name.
That is a good title.
Uh, Hammer is also more consistent. So you get the Mummy, and then the Curse of the Mummy's Tomb, the Mummy Shroud, and Blood from the Mummy's Tomb. A lot of tombs. A lot of things coming from tombs.
So many tombs, like Tomb of the Dragon Emperor.
Oh, that's what we're gonna do next.
One
Uh,
other interesting. Oh, sorry, go on.
Tyler specifies he's talking about the 1940s color one and not the 20s one for Phantom.
Oh, okay, and that's the one I always forget about. Yeah, I guess I like this better than that. I mean, the '40s Phantom is fine, but yeah, that's not a great movie. But I don't think of it as the first one because the first one is the '20s silent one, so the
Is
'40s
the
one is
20s one
weird
considered a universal?
generally.
I
Yeah,
haven't seen any
but
of them. I have no dog in this fight.
well, in the 1920s, you get particularly Lon Chaney as the Hunchback of Notre Dame and Phantom of the Opera, and those are considered like, but they're silent movies. Dracula's the first sound one, so the '20s ones exist in kind of a weird space, but or at the very least considered like proto Universal monster flicks. And then Phantom is one they remake in the '40s.
We should also look into that Mummy animated show.
I've never seen any of it.
I know I've seen some of it, but I don't remember any of it. I know that's based in the 90s movies. Tyler, I'll be back later, but hope you guys enjoy the rest of the movie. Thanks, yeah.
Thank you.
Have fun. Whatever you're doing.
This is where I think the movie starts to slow down and also starts doing a lot of repeating from Dracula. Namely, you have a scientist guy who's like, this guy's fucking evil. There's something wrong with him. We got to keep an eye on him. And then our love interest, the guy she's into, is
Oh,
played by
that's
the
a
same
good one.
actor who played Jonathan Harker in Dracula.
Excellent.
I like this guy, the Nubian. That is Noble Johnson, who was a black actor working in Hollywood in this period. He's also in King Kong, which is pretty cool. I just had to specify that this is not a guy in blackface. This is an
He
actual black
he
actor.
was a black actor. He's not anymore. He's like, oh my god, a woman. I've never seen one of those. Anaxanamon. When are we gonna cover all of the Scorpion King movies? I don't know. I
That'll
don't
be
think
when
those count.
that'll be when we do Scorpion Mania.
Yay! I didn't know they made so fucking many.
Yep.
2, 3, 4, 5 of them. Good God. Well, it sounds like just from what I'm seeing here, there's more um, continuity between the sequels than with this one.
Yes, absolutely. Um, So you mentioned earlier that this guy's more of a villain and less sympathetic. He's kind of an in between of Drac, because Frankenstein's monster is obviously, he's a creature that's misunderstood and didn't ask to be born, complete victim of circumstance. Dracula is our most pure villain. these scenes parallel Dracula a lot with the creepy older guy, preying on this young woman. But in Dracula, this is has a lot more romance to it, or like a dark romance to it than Dracula has. Because this is a guy, just wanting to bring back his lost love. So like that there is a love that's motivating his actions, whereas you don't have that in the first Dracula, like at all.
He was a bastard.
And what I like about the structure of this movie too, that is hard to appreciate if you know the '99 film and all the other various versions, is I do like that this movie has kind of a mystery to it. Like we ask a question up top of, well, why was this guy mummified alive? Like, what did he do? Like his motivations are kept a mystery for most of the movie, and I think that's kind of neat.
I think it would have been interesting too if you're gonna do a different mummy as in the second movie, is make him a different character, like a
I mean,
different
he
mummy.
kind of is. Like, he's named differently. He's named
He's
Karis
named
in those.
differently, but from what I see here, his like backstory is like identical.
It's mostly the same, yeah.
I would have just gone out of my way to make him a different character, and like,
Hmm.
so you have this movie with Emotep, and then like he's done.
Look into my eyes.
Don't mind if I do. Blah, blah, blah.
And like I said, besides the direction, my favorite thing about this movie is Karloff, and it's just fun seeing him to get to play a very different character here, and one with a lot more dialogue than he gets in the Frankenstein movies.
Yeesh.
But this is a lot like that Dracula scene where Van Helsing's like checking him out, like you're a fucking vampire.
Give this movie to Del Toro, and he'll make it where the mummy actually seduces her.
Yay!
I saw his Creature of the Black Lagoon movie.
I mean, besides the new Brendan Fraser Mummy movie, we'll see how that turns out. But after that, maybe that's the next direction to go. Is just make it really weird and horny.
No, no, no,
Get
no! Wait, 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 wait!
Get Clive Barker back. He
Yes,
almost made a Mummy movie in the '90s. It's not too late.
I would legitimately love that.
Yeah, because we'll talk about this more on the next one, but the '90s Mummy remake was in development hell for like a decade, went through a lot of different directors, and Clive Barker's pitch, the studio was like, "No, that's way too perverted and weird. We're not making that movie."
I know it's sad. Make Clive Barker's the mummy. Honestly, do it a comic if you don't want to make a movie.
Yeah.
So Robert, tell us what the pitch is for that mummy comic. I don't know anything about
Okay. So what I like about this comic is this is just an adaptation of this movie, sticks very close to the story, but the twist on this is it makes the girl Helen like the main character. So it does the story from her POV, and she's a lot more fleshed out in this, and this does a lot more with like the reincarnation angle, where Ankh Moon is like a voice in her head talking to her the whole time, and it's really cool. Like it feels like kind of a puzzle piece that this movie is missing that just fleshes out the story and gives it just a bit more heart. That's really neat. Now there are liberties taken. Like let me see if I can find it, but like I said, it sticks very close to the plot of this for the most part. But one scene, like we talked over with the guy at the museum who died of shock off screen, uh, In this, he doesn't die of shock. You just turn the page, and the mummy does this to him. It's like I was like, what the fuck? He like gouges his eye out. It's brutal and horrible. He gets it bad. But yeah, pretty good. Not my favorite of these that I've read, but still, I say worth checking out, especially if you like Mr. Mummy.
I mean, I've read Dracula and Creature. I need to read. I want to read Frankenstein. That's the one I'm probably the most interested in.
Me too.
It's true. All of it. Everything you said is true.
This is kind of a cool visual, like this little pool he has, which we kind of homage in the '99 one.
The '99 one needed a scene of the, or this one, sorry, needed a scene of somebody holding up a cat and it hissing at the mummy and it scaring off the mummy.
He's force choking him, John.
Yay! Oh my god. He's first choking his heart. It's too spooky.
And I do appreciate though with Karloff, even though he looks a lot more human for most of this movie after the opening scene. Like there is still makeup, and the close-ups you get, like it's still really cool. The wrinkles that they work into it, the way it's stretching his face, like Jack
He's
Pierce.
he's doing something with
Go on.
his eyes.
Yeah,
Those horrible yellow eyes.
and then this should go without saying, but in the '40s movies, when you get the mummy shambling around, the makeup gets a lot cheaper and looks worse and worse as it goes. I think by
Oh,
the last one, it's just a rubber mask.
that's beautiful.
Uh, like the mummy never looks as good as he looks in the opening scene of this movie with those close-ups. And that makeup from Jack Pierce took about 8 hours to apply and then 2 hours to take off. Just
That's why I
fucking
always
torture.
I get irritated when people like, actors they don't have an art. It's like fuck yeah they do.
Well, especially back then, just because the techniques were so primitive, like a lot of the materials they used would like stick to your skin, and you'd have to really rip it off. Like it was a very painful process taking that shit off.
Yeah.
But what's also cool about this movie though is with Frankenstein in the opening credits, Karloff's not even credited. It's like the creature question mark. They don't they kept the actor kind of mystery, but at the end of the movie, his name is properly credited. And then by this movie, a year later, he's like a household name, and they really leaned into like they called him Karloff the Uncanny, and his face was like all over the marketing for this movie, and this defined his career. And it sucks he generally got typecast as bad guys, but still, he got a lot of work and was I think a really fantastic actor with a lot of range.
Oh,
And
he's just a villain.
a good one you should check out. I don't know what year it was. The Body Snatcher, very low
Oh,
key, like gothic horror, but he's a great bad guy in that. But he's a bad guy who's like a shit talker. Like he's really entertaining to watch in it.
that's awesome. One thing I kind of wish some of these movies did was try to differentiate itself in the fashion thing. A lot of these movies run together because people just dress like they would in their everyday lives.
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, like some of them are period pieces, and then you get ones like this that are more contemporary.
Yeah, I mean that's not fair because I mean at the time we do that now, but
Yeah. Well, okay,
I
so
just
like
think it's because people
the
don't dress like this anymore.
we need to bring back fedoras.
True.
Now that this
Oh
close
my
up on
god,
Karloff is amazing.
that's
You
spooky.
can really see the detail, the makeup, and the lighting effects on his eyes. Like that's something Karl Freund did on Dracula in that movie and has just perfected here. Because on Dracula, there's a couple shots where he has those glowing eyes, but sometimes they'll be like off. So one of them's like on his cheek, and the other stuff. Well, once you notice it, it's funny how like lopsided that effect is. And
Dracula
here it's
versus the
just
Mummy.
perfect. Still waiting on it, and I don't
So
know why. For some reason, the Mummy is left out of like all the Monster Mash crossover movies, and I'm not sure why.
I just don't know what you do with that. This just turns out the movie is almost done, so I'm back. Welcome back.
Oh,
We're gonna recreate Bela Lugosi and Boris
Karloff.
Karloff, and
Uh,
make them fight.
oh God, it's what AI was made for.
Jeez. That probably exists somewhere.
Probably.
I keep getting ads, and it's like, here's John Wick fighting Elon Musk. This is what AI can do now. Like, okay, like, Tyler, what are your thoughts on the choice to get Karloff out of the bandages so early in the movie?
I think it works for the story they're telling. I actually
I
don't mind this disguise.
so I think it works because there is that time skip, and I don't know. There are a few slashers where there's very specific things they don't like. Like I need Jason in the hockey mask. I need Michael, to have his
Mm.
William Shatner
This
mask.
shot's really cool.
Yes, this looks cool. I don't feel that passionate about if the mummy's in bandages or not. Like I don't know.
But we're also coming at it from a different perspective where like this is the first one.
Yeah,
It's not based on a book. We're not There aren't tropes yet. It's the following movies that cement the cliche of just the guy in bandages shambling
well,
around
and because
killing
I'm not a
people.
history guy, is the bandages even based in any kind of like history, or is that just
Yes. Yeah,
we
yeah.
needed a cool like look?
No, like the bandages are generally a
And here
mummification
we
thing.
have the whitest Egyptian people you'll ever see. I always think of that scene in Blazing Saddles where Mel Brooks comes up as just as an Indian. And it's like they darker than us. Tyler, I personally really like the bandage look. I think
I mean, I do.
because I grew up on the '90s movie.
I mean, I,
I
I love this figure. Like,
Yeah,
I
no,
love
that's a cool figure. I think because I grew up on the '90s movie, I'm just not attached to it. Like that is my the what I think of with the mummy, and he's never really in bandages for that.
which and Steven Summers, at least quite like he was a big fan of this movie specifically, and that was a factor in that where he was like, yeah, I don't want him just to be in bandages the whole movie because that's not what the first one did.
And honestly, thank God for that because I think Vosla is giving a hell of a performance in that movie.
He's great.
The
Well, and
bandages
like I said,
were designed to preserve the body in the afterlife. That makes sense.
mhm.
Well, and we'll talk about it in the '90s movie, but there is a scene of it, so at some point he did have them. It's just you don't need to keep them. what I think the '90s movie does better is it earns him getting his human body back,
Yes.
because he's that weird CGI monstrosity for a few
Mhm.
scenes. Which leads to the best scene in the movie where he roars at Brendan Fraser and Brendan Fraser roars back. Oh my god.
Okay, now my guy, if you're gonna steal this, at least try to cover your tracks.
You know, it makes sense though that Steven Summers is a big fan of this movie because I think he just straight up uses that same prop, the box, that looks like the
Yeah.
one in the '90s movie.
Well, again, I what I like about the structure of this one is that the mummy's motivations are kept a mystery for
Yeah.
most of it. And then this whole flashback sequence, we basically just make the prologue of the '90s one.
Are they just
Yeah, like
watching
it.
this on a television?
It's in his pool
That's awesome.
in pristine HD.
I'm
'Cause
surprised they never bring up birds or owls in any of the movies. If you would look at Egyptian hieroglyphs, you see owls and ducks and all that over their artifacts. Um,
It's true.
I would need to know what the context of them being mentioned in those hieroglyphs are. I mean, you do get the cat thing in the '90s movie.
Yeah. And this shot is, of course, directly lifted with the close up of him getting the bandages over his
Yes.
face.
Oh god, that would freak me out.
Oh yeah, it looks rough. And
Mummification is a fucked up process.
oh well, okay. To be fair, most of the time mummies they at least they wait till you're dead, and then they do it. Most
No.
people weren't buried alive like this poor bastard.
You know what? Maybe there is something to it making a movie about somebody slowly becoming a mummy. You wake up one day and bandages are starting to grow around you, and you're like, what the fuck?
Well, and a lot of these shots are recycled for the flashbacks in the '40s movies with Karis. Like they even use that shot of Karloff getting wrapped up. They just wait till his face is covered so they don't have to pay Karloff for the footage.
That's awesome. And I think there is something at least thematically here with the rest of the Universal monsters, which is, kind of fear of the unknown, of the strange culture coming after you.
Mhm. Yeah, that's another quality that makes the mummy in this feel very similar to Dracula, as he is that mysterious outsider.
I love that there's a whole era of monster movies which is just other nationalities bad. They're scary. Birds typically represent life and regeneration, so I think it would be fitting. But where would you fit that in with the movie as it is? Like
Like
that.
I'm also not an expert
Yeah.
in Egyptian culture. Now this is fucked up. That they make these guys bury him, and then they kill the slaves.
That's
So
oddly. That's really graphic for a third
it
movie.
is. Yeah, that's another notable quality of this is this and Invisible Man are some of the last of the pre-code movies, the pre-censorship movies. So this is one of those that does get away with some shocking moments that you would not see just a few years later. Yeah, and this whole backstory with Imhotep and Ankh-Sunamun is very similar to the '90s one. The biggest change the '90s one makes is making Ankh-Sunamun like the pharaoh's mistress, so it's like a forbidden love, which I think is a fine addition.
I think it adds a certain tragedy because, like, he commits treason for her.
Right? Yeah, yeah. I like that idea.
Then it's been a minute since I've watched it. Isn't it the end she ends up betraying him again?
That's the second movie.
Okay, never mind. That second movie's weird, apparently.
And we talked over it, but Imhotep does have a cat here. So that's also a change where here he has a pet cat, and then in the '99 one we make him afraid of cats.
So in the nine in to credit the '90s movie, I have also heard that I've seen other Egyptian mythology things do the thing where a cat is like guardian of the underworld. So that sounds like maybe somebody here didn't do their research and somebody there did. I don't expect these movies to honor Egyptian culture. Like, fair enough, Tyler. I mean, I just need to see how it's done. I don't, off the top of my head, know what you would do with the whole like birds meeting reincarnated life and shit. Not in a horror film anyway. I am kind of having this where when Karloff's not on screen, I'm a little checked out.
Yeah, and who's this guy? Frank, played by
Uncle Frank.
David, played by David Manners, who is a fine actor. Nothing against him, but he was also Jonathan Harker in Dracula, and in both movies, he's just the fuckboy guy. Like he's very uninteresting and doesn't have anything to do.
Yeah, I think this movie not there's nothing against the methodical pace, but like it feels like we're padding time
A little, and it's very low key. That's also where I think Summers should be given more credit for the spin he took with his movie, just because of the original Universal monsters, like this is the least like horror-ish of them. Like this is a very low key kind of dry movie, which again I like the tragic romance angle, and of course the opening is brilliant.
here. Honestly,
Um,
if we they won't do this because all we can think to do with these now is try to recreate the superhero shared
the
universe.
'90s one.
I think focusing on the romance would be a terrible way to go with something like this. Make it a tragedy.
Yeah, sure, and I, part of what I find so interesting about the history, like the evolution of Dracula adaptations, is when we introduce the whole like reincarnated lost love angle. But that starts with this movie. If anything, this movie starts influencing
Well,
later
I think
Dracula
that
movies.
reincarnation thing fits more with this than it does Dracula.
Why I think it's fine in Dracula, at least for a movie, is that it gives him a specific motivation that he doesn't really have in the book, other than just being
Like,
evil.
why can't he just be evil?
Yeah, that's fine. But there are movies that do that. Um, but I had an epiphany earlier because I not just comparing this to Dracula, but it also occurred to me like what you were saying with the tragic romance reincarnation angle. I'm like, oh right, this is just what Candyman does.
Yeah.
Like this is just
No,
Candyman.
in a
And
way,
Candyman's
Candyman
great.
is like a perfect mummy movie.
It is like, and the main girl's named Helen, like this movie,
We got Clive Barker's mummy, folks. We got it.
basically.
How many Universal Classic monster movies have you guys covered now? Oh God, barely. I think we've just done Dracula, the first two Frankenstein's, the Invisible Man, and this. I don't really keep track. I need to make a
And
playlist of just our Universal monster stuff.
well, we've definitely done Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Yes.
Oh, that's another one.
Maybe we've done almost all of the firsts. Would you say Phantom would count for this channel? I've never seen it.
Yeah, Phantom's weird. I mean, I would like to do some more silent movies on the channel. So like that's definitely the one. It would be an interesting double feature at some point to do the '20s Phantom and the '40s Phantom, because for whatever reason that's the only one that Universal like remakes.
But even
In
with
this
that,
golden era.
we have. It's interesting. That's the one we don't bring back anymore. The last one I can think of was
No,
like five.
right.
I've not heard anything about that. I don't know if it's good. Casting Gerald Butler seems weird, but
I've heard he's the worst part of it.
Amy Rossum was good casting. She could sing.
hmm No, Phantom.
Now what we'll do is we'll do the 20s one and the 80s one with Robert England.
Yes.
No, it'd be really cool to make like a drama movie and you just follow a woman and like she's starting to get nightmares about like previous life and then you introduce the mummy that's like coming to get her.
hmm Well, and the one scary idea the 90s one introduces, that would be my jumping off point, is the mummy coming back to life, and his victims is how he regenerates and gets his body parts back. That is such a great idea of how he gets his eyes and his tongue and all
My
that back.
eyes.
Like just lean into that, like go full body horror with it, but not the way Lee Cronin did it.
Tyler, I'd make a movie about misunderstood history where the mummy isn't a villain, but due to superstition and word of mouth at the time he was labeled evil. This would be because someone was trying to seize power. But the mummy isn't a specific person. That's just he's one of many
Yeah.
people that was buried in the ancient Egyptian. I don't know. I would I think I would stick with the like tragic romance aspect, and you can make him a monster because he's doing all these awful things to try to get her to be with
Mhm.
him.
And like I said, I appreciate that the 90s one keeps that.
Yeah.
That like it at least it does keep his main central motivation.
Well, and what works with that too is that gives him and our actual protagonist like a direct antagonistic force there because they both want her.
hmm He's doing it again.
He's freaking out.
Yeah, there's his cat.
Imagine if the cat hissed at him and he hissed back.
Oh,
That
right.
shot where he's first waking up, he looked a little bit like Shatner.
Yeah,
Now
I can see
imagine
that.
Shatner's the mummy. Nak Samun. I can't say it right. It's harder. It's easier to say when you do it all at once, but when you're trying to like split it up, then the vowels get all messed up. Stop fighting me.
Ah, there's like close up again.
Oh my god, it's too Robert. That's too spooky. I should have found a shot of that and made it our backdrop. The way they're cutting back and forth, it's like he's just watching the movie. Like, yes, very good.
Come to me, Anksunamun.
Anaxamunu, stop fighting me. What does the mummy need with a starship? Why haven't we made the mummy in space yet? I mean, it's right there.
Do you
It's so
like this
funny.
horribly tacky outfit I put you in?
It's so funny watching this just a couple days after You Only Live Twice. With the
This isn't as bad as that.
well, no, that movie's better. Asian Bond is a wonderful piece of art. Maybe you guys should do a ranking of the original Universal monsters at some point because that Predator ranking just never happened. We're doing the Predator ranking next week. What do you mean?
Yeah, stay tuned. We definitely want to do more rankings in the future. Universal's hard just because I don't know how to go about it. Where it's like, I mean, we could do like the individual franchises, like
I
Frankenstein.
don't want to sit through all
Should I
those.
get?
Like,
Yeah,
not all,
but
not that small a frame because like
the mummy is easily the worst of them as like just the singular franchises go. Where when you get to like the next four movies, I'm like, I don't know how to rank those. It's the same movie over and over again.
yeah. Oh my god, googly eyes. I mean, I
Ah,
could probably rank like the first of each movie at this point.
yeah.
I also I it's not fair. I like the Universal monsters. I kind of wish I'd gotten into them earlier. These are
Mhm.
a passing curiosity for me outside of like Frankenstein, which I get the Invisible Man. The rest, I'm like, I'm glad I watched them. I don't know if I'll ever watch them again.
Don't break that.
I can make the mummy in space. Okay, he'll get blown up and then come back as metal. The Uber mummy. I'll call it the Mummy X.
But this is where the movie really comes alive again, though. Like, this set's really cool. The lighting's great, and so like every time Karloff's on screen, he just commands
Emotep,
your attention.
that's cultural appropriation. Don't do that.
No.
Stop.
Also, this is like your other tell that this is a pre-code movie, because her outfit is extremely revealing.
Yeah. No, I almost wish we would remake this, like a 1-to-1 remake of this now. You could do a lot more.
Hmm.
Although
Yeah, it's
you
like,
have to cast an Englishman as the mummy, or I won't accept it. Tyler says he's talking about the original movie in the franchise. Yeah, I mean maybe at some point. I also don't know how interesting that would be. Like, is there a lot of deviations on what the best Universal movie is? I mean, 'cause for me, it's Frankenstein. Like,
yeah, Frankenstein's my favorite. A lot of people prefer Bride, and Bride is great, but I prefer the first
just
one.
for the first movie.
Sure.
For Frankenstein and Bride are like this. I think they're two pieces. Like,
Absolutely. Which, it's funny because they're made like 4 years apart, you know. But I think of those two as a pair, and I think they're best viewed that way.
anime fan is in the chat. Welcome in. Brandon Fraser, Dwayne
Hello.
Johnson, and Tom Cruise should star in a Mummyverse film with Jim Carrey as a stand-in for Boris Karloff.
Oh,
No, no, thank you.
hey, I like Jim Carrey and things. I
Yeah.
would not call him a Karloff type. So this is her most interesting scene, where it's like both of these souls in her body are kind of working in tandem, and like this is something that the comic book really runs with. Where she's like, I am both Moon, but I'm also Helen. Like, I'm still this other person too, and I'm like, I don't want this.
Well, it's
But
interesting
it's
that
the
the reincarnation goes all the way back to this one.
Mhm. Well, and it's the same gist of like the climax of the '90s one, where it's like he wants to sacrifice her and kill her, and then so that it's just Moon's soul within her.
Well, and that would I think kind of go into what I was saying earlier, is focusing on the romance. When he becomes the villain, is I want to kill you to get the version
Mhm.
of you back that I had, you know, a century ago. Anime fan Boris Karloff and Jim Carrey have both been the Grinch. I didn't know that. Is Boris Karloff like
That
in
is
the
correct.
animated movie, like from way back?
Yes.
Okay.
I was gonna ask you that because I know you're not like a big Christmas guy, but did you watch that one growing up? The 2D cartoon from the
No,
'60s?
I watched growing up as a kid, some like real small kid. I was a big Seuss fan, so I read the book a lot, and then I saw the Carrie movie. I think the only animated one of those I saw was like Cat in the Hat once.
The Grinch animated '60s one's great. It's animated by Chuck Jones from the Looney Tunes, and Karloff's perfect in that he voices both the narrator and the Grinch, and that's like what I think of him as. Like him, that and Frankenstein are like the two things I most associate with Karloff. He's really wonderful in that.
Tyler, have you read the Skybound book? I have not. Robert has it. He has it behind him. Sounds like a Wonder Woman '84 type of situation. If you're talking about my pitch, yeah, except it would be self-aware of how wrong this is.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Oh, I love the way we shoot the statues.
Yes.
The way they're underlit.
No, I don't even hate that whole idea of like Steve Trevor being around, other than it's just an excuse to get Chris Pine back. But the fact that nobody talks about it, how
It's so
wrong that
weird.
is.
Yeah. Another Karloff movie you should see is Targets. That was one of his last ones in the '60s before he died. That is a fucked up movie. Like it's a movie where there's these two storylines going on. Karloff, it's very meta. He plays like an aging actor who's getting kind of disillusioned with Hollywood and film and is retiring. Like he's done with like the modern world. The other plot going on is there's this kid who comes home from Vietnam and then kills his family and goes on a shooting spree. And then those two storylines collide at the end. Like that is a dark movie, but Karloff is wonderful in it.
I feel like the '60s were such an interesting time for film
Hmm.
because we're coming out of the '50s, the you know pearl clutching, like we have to make
So,
safe films,
yeah,
but we're not quite to the '70s of you can do whatever the hell you want. Uh,
absolutely. Because even in Target, it's like I don't think they say Vietnam specifically. It's just very strongly implied that that's what's going on.
Tyler, do you have any thoughts on the Abbott and Costello crossover? No. Other than I don't know if I have any interest in goofy Universal hijinks.
Their first one is their best one. You should see Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein because it's very good. It has Lon Chaney Jr. in it as the Wolfman, and it's the last time you see Bela Lugosi as Dracula.
Oh,
It's
damn!
actually a good
I didn't know
movie,
all that was in that.
good comic.
Okay.
Yeah, and then all the other ones aren't as good. Like Abbott and Costello meet the Invisible Man, and Abbott and Costello meet the Mummy is not very good.
That's
Um,
okay. That was a cool effect, like when he's turning back into the mummy.
yes, right, right, yeah.
They rescued the Whammon.
Happy ending, yay. She's like, oh no, this guy.
And I feel like
I
a
guess
lot
I'll
of these
stay with you.
movies are also set up for tragic endings, like a more sad ending. But because it's like 1932, we can't do that. The evil has to lose. That's what
Hmm.
I do in my mummy movies. They win, but at what cost?
Yeah. Well, that's like the one thing that sucks about how both Frankenstein movies are a little compromised. Because in the first movie, Dr. Frankenstein was supposed to die, and then they reshot an extra ending where they're like, just kidding, he's alive, he's gonna be okay. And then in Bride of Frankenstein, everyone in that room is supposed to blow up in
Oh,
that tower. And then they were like, "Oh, that didn't test well. Okay, we'll let Dr. Frankenstein and his wife get out of there." And that's like the one part of that movie I don't like. That's compromised, where it's like, ah, no, they all should have died. The movie would be better for it. But oh well.
test audience is forever the bane of any horror film.
Yeah. But that was the Mummy in 1932. I still like
It
it. It's
is
very slow.
okay.
Yeah, the pacing issues are the worst thing about it. But like I said, great cinematography. Karloff's great in it. There's some cool looking stuff. Um, I think it's okay.
Yeah. Real quick for the recording, if you're watching this after the fact, please consider hitting that like and subscribe. We'll see you guys on the next one.